you are caught in possession of illegal drugs, anywhere from 12 months in jail to 15 years to serve. Now, marijuana possession is a misdemeanor. You can only get up to 12 months in jail for possession of marijuana. But it depends on the schedule of drugs, and that's a pretty intricate, detailed legal analysis depending upon what schedule the drug is in. If it's a Schedule 4 drug, that is like cocaine, methamphetamine, those types of drugs, it is a maximum of 15 years to serve in prison.
Your first time going to court, it's like then you really start feeling bad about it. You know, you really start feeling like I really messed up because, you know, it's like you see stuff on TV of people going to court for like killing people and stuff, you know. But when you have to go in there and tell what you've done, you know, to the judge and describe whatever, you know, it's like it just makes you feel like you're a bad person. Maybe I didn't go to jail. My parents kind of stepped in to fill that spot, you know. It's like I didn't get my phone back, you know, it's like they sold my truck, you know, they made sure that I felt the effects, you know, and I'm on probation right now, and this hopefully will be my last month. I haven't failed a drug test, I've been clean, you know, I'm honest with the lady, I do what I have to do. I had 64 hours of community service, which is a long, long time of doing unpaid work. So you got to think twice about that before you ever, you know, think about getting in trouble.
Typically a first-time offender I'm going to give you a typical sentence, will be 5 years to serve on probation. And then we try them on probation, see if they're able to stay off the drugs, stay off the alcohol. If they are, they can be successful. If not, they would come back for a probation revocation and be sent off to prison or to a detention center.
Punishments may include, but will not be limited to, probation with certain court-ordered provisions such as individual counseling, family counseling, or participation in drug, alcohol awareness and intervention programs. You could be institutionalized in a camp or other juvenile facility, a committal to the Department of Juvenile Services for a minimum of 2 years, restitution, community service, or fines. Drug or alcohol offenses committed by students on school grounds may result in the suspension of driving privileges for 1 or 2 years or until the student's 18th birthday.
For distribution of drugs, selling drugs, of course that's a much more severe penalty. Up to 30 years to serve is the maximum for that. Now trafficking in drugs, trafficking, that would, to get convicted of trafficking you have to be possessing a certain amount, which is a fairly large amount of, say, cocaine or methamphetamine. Trafficking would get you a mandatory minimum 10 years to serve in prison, and you would serve out most of that time in prison.
I started out and I have never used, but unfortunately I had to reap the consequences because I made a poor choice, and I had medication with me from a surgery I had had at school, and somebody asked me for some and I gave it to them, and I from there was treated just as I was a drug user. I was thrown in jail, later put on probation for 6 months. I sat in a jail cell with kids who had grand theft auto charges, all types of things like that, and here I was, somebody who's always had good grades, always been to church every Sunday. So they've had a very big effect on my life, whether it's come to, you know, getting your license gets delayed until you can get it, or suspended if you do have your license. I was kicked out of school for 1.5 years. That was the biggest thing that really had an impact on my life. And changing, having to go to an alternative school system, and unfortunately the education's not always as great, and you can feel that. And then, you know, down the road when you're trying to apply to colleges want to know what's on your permanent record and why that's there, and they want to know everything about it. And it's had a very big effect on my life over everything in my life.
We're seeing a lot more of the prescription drug offenses, and they are just as serious as the illicit drug offenses, because what you're going to have is someone who maybe steals some medicine from the medicine cabinet, takes it to school, and then you've got a kid who's distributing drugs. Basically, they become a drug seller or dealer, and that, as I told you earlier, that's a much stiffer penalty for dealing in drugs. And you can get hooked on those painkillers just as quickly as you can on the other kind of illicit drugs. Yeah, certainly.
Yes.
Mhm.